Alright, Luna. After that break, it's important that we continue with the right line of questioning.
Oh, but Samuel dear, you said I could talk a little. I'm becoming an old lady. I was rather enjoying reminiscing. Go on, let me continue.
I, George Herbert Walker Bush, do solemnly swear.
I was working in for a paper in Colorado at this point, and I got sent down there to write an article on George Bush taking his oath of office. To me, obviously, this was a big deal, an upgrade from my measly weekly column, and I wasn't asked for too much. Just to state the facts, and to describe the general atmosphere of the crowd there in DC. I loved being able to travel for my work, you know. I didn't care much for the election. Personally, I'm not really interested in politics, but a change of scenery was nice. It keeps things interested. I'm bored very easily. I need new sources of inspiration all the time for my free writing. Frank Walker was a fine man indeed, but he was writing for a paper in Boston. This election had given him the opportunity he'd been waiting for as well, you see. He was such a firm man, that's the only way to describe him. From what I remember, he didn't come from a particularly wealthy family, not much to his name, but he had grown up to be able to support himself, and he was very proud of that. Frank was most literal with his writing. Although he did read a range of genres, he wasn't interested in writing about them himself. He stuck to facts, things he could back with evidence. He lacked that creativity, you see. I had rented an apartment in DC for the few months I was there, so I felt settled, and having a friend like Frank made it feel more homely. He was renting an apartment also not too far from me. We didn't really agree on much, but we appreciated literature and creativity, although Frank seemed to that attribute himself. I started writing a few bits for local newspapers in DC by this point. You see, I'd really built up quite a portfolio by this point, so work was coming in much easier. But my time at Washington was coming to an end. It was never going to be a forever thing. Frank! Where are you?
I'm in the bar.
Frank adored me. He was inspired by my work, maybe a little bit too much. Right before I left DC, me and Frank decided to have a home-cooked meal together, something we both preferred as opposed to a fancy restaurant, and we were having it around his place. We were having leg of lamb, stewed, which I simply love, but the idiot forgot to take it out to defrost early in the day, so our dinner was delayed. Still, that meant we could talk more, have our final catch-up, and talk about our future plans. We began talking, and surprise, surprise, we started to disagree. Nothing unusual, except this time, Frank was being more stubborn than usual. In fact, rather aggressive, and I could see him getting wound up. I just had to leave. We didn't part on bad terms. I simply told him before I was going, before we did end up falling out, that I wished him all the best in future and hoped to see him again. Frank was just as lovely to me back, his only complaint being that he didn't really want to cook a great big meal for himself, and would rather I brought home the leg of lamb for me. Frank was cleaning out his fridge because he was leaving soon as well, and along with the lamb leg, he gave me an ox tongue to take home also. For a great big man like Frank, you'd think he would have liked his meat, you know? Frank, you're a good man. You have morals. It's a shame you lost them.
Luna, what are you on about? Stop talking whack and come and help me with this oxtail.
You're a good man, Frank. You can't be deceitful. Not you.
Have you heard from Frank lately? Does he still write?
I have not, but I'll assume he went to Mississippi and married that girl, and is now a family man who goes to church every Sunday.
Luna, most of these men in your stories, they're not really your men, are they? Tell me about your upbringing.
Very well. All right then.